Tim Davidson, why do you want to live to be 150 years old?
Oh, wow. Doing this. I love it. That's a good question. I am someone that I have a lot of ambitions, but I'm not so ambitious in the sense like I don't want to like build a huge company or anything. That's not my thing. But I have a lot of interests, I guess. And I figured if I can live to 150, which I would say is also getting possible, so that helps.
That's fair.
Then I can have what? Sorry, that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I said like 300, it's like that doesn't make sense. But 150, I feel like is possible now. But I have a lot of interest. So, and I don't think I can do them all at once. So, maybe marketing is my thing right now, and that's what I want to do. But at some point, I won't do marketing, and I want to like science gets good enough, and it could do some like interesting stuff in space, and I would love to kind of explore that. Or I dig for fossils, or I mean, it could be go anyway. But I just have so many interests that the best way for me to do them all, I guess, in a good way. Like if I did, fossil digging for a year, like I don't like I would get the satisfaction that I'm looking for. I want to do it like for a long time, like a good amount of time. And if I could have like 3 stints of like 50 years old or 50 years of doing something really, really good, or even 30, I don't know what that looks like yet, but then I can really, that's the biggest reason. And like, obviously, and I think about this a lot, so I'm kind of going off here, but like, if I get to 100 and I can't do anything, I'm just like an old guy that's just like sitting back in a chair and like he can't do anything because my legs are broke. Like I have like 5 knee replacements. That doesn't make sense. So the caveat there is like feel young enough, whether I'm a robot or not, I don't really care. And it's just my brain. Feel young enough where I can still do things. Then I want to live 150. If I'm 100 and I'm especially, don't want to do that.
So you would use each one of those for like going all in on something. You don't think there would be a break where you're like, hey, I want to go coach lacrosse for a few years or whatever, go back over the pond. Like, you really want to dive into like a few key things.
I mean, that's the plan now, but I mean, if I think about last 3 years, my life's completely changed then. So like in 3 years, what's my new, kind of venture going to look like? I don't know. So I think that's the current plan. I'm sure it's going to change because if I want to dig for fossils, like that's probably going to be like ridiculously different in 70 years. Right. So I don't really need, maybe I don't need to go dig deep that or funny enough, dig deep into it for that long because of, maybe it's VR or like some sort of, something. So maybe I don't need to do that, but yeah, I want to dig deep enough. Like I don't need to do marketing for 50 years. I can tell you that much. So that'll definitely change. I change my mind a lot too. So like those interests can change like very quickly.
I get that. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. When it comes to marketing, it's kind of surprising to hear that you're like, no, I'm not tied to this, especially from someone that objectively is pretty damn good at it.
I appreciate that. I wouldn't say I'm that good at it. Yeah, no, and it's not to say like I'll never do marketing after like a certain point, right? Maybe like I'll probably take that and help me do the other things. Like that's how I'll probably like get to space is if I wanted to still do that is some sort of marketing for NASA. I don't know, whatever it is for, X or not X, whatever Elon's space thing is.
Yeah.
I just and when I say that, like I don't want to like I think I just don't want to be in the marketing. And again, this could completely change, but I don't know if I want to be known as a marketer, like specifically, and like do just marketing for the rest of my life. And even like if I think about my career path now, I think there's a lot of avenues, but I don't want to take the classic career path of be a manager or go from specialist to manager to director to VP to CMO.
Yeah.
I don't meetings. I don't know if I want to do a VP or CMO type of role ever. I don't like meetings. And they take a lot of meetings. I'm not sure I'll ever do that. I'm probably gonna go in like a sideways path into like different ways of doing it. So I just don't know. And the answer could be I'll be marketing forever, but it just kind of what I market is different, and then kind of the role always changes. Um, I just don't know if I want to be in this kind of like corporate marketing role for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I get that,
However you
and
define it, right? However you
I'm
define
yeah, I'm I'm hearing that a lot more and more, and I've even dealt with that. I had a conversation around 6 months ago to a year ago with somebody that was asking me, what's the plan, and I had it in my head. I want to be the youngest CMO in cybersecurity. And then I caught up with that person a few weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, you still want to be CMO in cybersecurity?" And I went, "No, I'd rather jump off a cliff." Um, so I get that. In your
Wait, you caught up
experience,
with the youngest CMO?
what's that?
Are you saying you caught up with the youngest CMO in cybersecurity, or that
Oh
person that
no,
you were talking to?
the person I was talking to.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
But yeah, yeah, and even then, it's a little cavalier considering I'm 37 now. Like I may not be. I don't know. Um, but anyway, yeah, it's one thing I'm seeing more and more is marketers hitting a brick wall and realizing that, and this is what I'll ask you about your experience is onward and upward. You look at that path, that career path, you look at the next logical steps. What about that for you gave you pause? What did you not like about that? About what you saw?
Yeah. So part of it's actually, this is funny. I know you said like this is gonna be like demand gen therapy, and it's actually turning into it. So well done. Part of it is that admittedly, I'm not the best manager. I'm a really good individual contributor. I'm not the best manager, and so part of that was kind of also a realization that maybe I don't want to do that. Like you mentioned, like coaching lacrosse, I actually did that too. I played, and then I was like, oh, I want to coach, and that's two different things. I didn't like coaching.
Yeah,
It wasn't for me, and so like I'm finding that more often. Just understanding my who I am, the personality I have, the things I like and don't like. Yeah, I hate meetings, and that's my usually like excuse or what I say when someone says, "Oh, don't you want to be a CMO?" But I also did come to the realization I'm not the best manager. I could probably do some courses and like actually work with people really good. I've had great managers. I have great managers,
sure.
right? So I could work with them closely if I want to. But if I'm not, since I'm not doing that, I know it just makes me. I know I just don't really want to be a really good like a manager. I think at some point I'm gonna want to manage, but not like
Yeah,
CMO level manage, right? I don't want to manage that many people. I don't want to have be in meetings all
sure.
day and just, you know, eh,
At
also
that
part of
point,
it is like, go ahead.
at that point, you're almost too far removed from marketing
Yeah,
as a craft.
exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. And because I love the individual contributor of myself and like also just being in the weeds. I love, the new freaking bid management thing in LinkedIn, or I love that kind of like new platform or whatever that, is really changing things up. Like I love that stuff. And, to your point, like being far removed, I don't know if I ever want to be that person, but when you're a CMO, I don't know if you can, you have to be in meetings all day and you have to be managing, you have to be talking to the board all day. Like that's just part of the job. And you can't really be in the weeds or anything like that.
Is part of your outlook and your motivation for um, pursuing those awesome levels of self-awareness that it takes to be a marketer, in that journey, is it one of those situations where you love it so much that you're going to have to quit on your terms before you get too deep and resent it? Eaten alive by corporate culture. Happens to marketers all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably, yeah, I think it would be on my terms. But I'd also say I think I can say that because I've built up like a personal brand on LinkedIn in a
Sure.
sense. So I feel like I have more options than maybe some do. And so I can almost like take a different route because I've also built up skill sets within that.
Sure.
Whether it's like video editing or just like things about like just learning from other people on different ways to talking to a lot of people that did, they just didn't want to go work. They're just, consultants or whatever you want to call them, but they're not like proper consultants. They like do a bunch of different things. I think I've learned a
Right.
different skill set that I could almost go with if I wanted to. So I don't have to, or more that I can actually do it on my terms.
That makes sense. You mentioned your personal brand, and I'm sure all of my audience is going to be familiar with who you are, and hopefully we'll send a lot more folks your way if we can. But when it comes to personal brand, in your experience, what have been some of the more tangible results in pursuing that? And are you doing it for personal or professional reasons?
I will say I feel like they have intertwined the personal and professional. Um, so I started it just because I saw the opportunity. I just knew. I mean, I remember in 2015, just religiously watching YouTube videos of like I was on a big self help kick, like big self help kick, learning
Cool.
how to learn, just like like the workout stuff and meditation, like all that. I was on a huge kick on that, and like just like Wim Hof stuff, like everything you can think
Yeah,
of, like biohacking, all that. And I remember just watching a bunch of YouTube videos and really learning about that whole world of, your person building your personal brand there, Tim Ferriss and all those others that were getting sponsorships and stuff. So I always knew about that. And I just understood the opportunity. So when I started, creating content probably 2.5 years ago now, I've tried before. It was just like, I quit after a month. I didn't see some sort of like early result or whatever that was. I just got busy or whatever it was. I just didn't see the kind of creative output that I wanted to. And so I created it probably selfishly in the sense of I wanted to like feel like I can get a sponsorship at one point. Like I feel like I feel like I had that in me where I could like build something, which all stemmed from the YouTube thing. This obviously went to LinkedIn, and share my ideas or things that I was doing, and I just felt like I could do something more on the entrepreneurial side. That said, I also knew it would be helpful for my company, the company I work at, Directive, but I didn't think it was going to turn into what it is now, which is like my job has completely shifted because my personal brand helps Directive a lot. And so my job has actually like what I'm doing, which I actually like more, is definitely shifted over to like creating a lot of content, like videos and just talking to like community, like just talking to everyone about marketers, going to events and things like that, which I have actually found out that I like a lot. So it was really good in that sense. But I didn't realize my job would turn into that at first. At first, it
sure.
was more of like, it's more for selfishly, like in a sense, selfishly in that I didn't want to like have a resume. I didn't want to like have to be have a resume. I didn't want to be beholden on a resume or like be in trouble if I did lose my job
Sure.
and be really worried. I didn't want that. That was more the selfish side of it. And when I say it like shifted into personal, like personal and professional, just because I do like doing that. So the personal brand is also professional, but like there's definitely a big mix of that.
It sounds like you just needed something for you. Like
Yeah.
I'm
And
just gonna do this for me, and I get a sense of the need to see if you can surprise yourself, see if you can impress yourself with something. Like you mentioned getting a sponsor. Just to was that a hey, I think I can do this. Let's see if I can do it.
yeah, obviously I need to get to a point where I could get that right. And I've had sponsors now, and it's not like what I was thinking. But I just thought it was cool. No, I shouldn't say that. Like it's actually really cool. But it's like the classic thing. Like
What did you think it was going to be?
where you're at now is where you wanted to be, but like you're still not. You're still not big enough, right? It's like it's still you want to get to a different, the next point or whatever it is.
What were
I'd also say part of it. Go ahead.
what were your initial expectations? You say it wasn't, what you initially thought it would be. What'd you think it would be?
No, yeah. Uh so when I first had someone reach out about like paying me to create a video, basically, like that in its simplest terms, that was basically it. When the moment happened, I was very excited. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like someone, because there's a validation to it, right? There's a sense of validation that someone is willing to, because of whatever you're doing online, someone is willing to pay you to create videos that I literally, and I still do today, create them on my phone, which is the craziest thing to me, right? That someone would pay me to create a video and post it. And so in the moment, it was very exciting. When I meant by it's not what it was, that excitement didn't continue just because, and it's just like everything, you get a new role, like the excitement's there, but then it's like,
Yeah.
all right, what's that? What's that next thing? And I'm not saying like I know what that next thing is. It's just not as exciting because I get more of them now. It's such a stupid mindset, but it's the case. It's the truth for everything, right? Um, that now that you get more of them, it's not as like I'm trying to think
The
of the best word, but
novelty
like
wears off.
yes, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
So is that what fuels the desire for more? Or
No,
does it point you in a direction to
change.
go up, or is that possibly what would make you make a lateral move? Because it sounds like y you started doing it for you as a creative outlet, something to test yourself. Money gets involved. Is that trying to pull you closer to being kind of disillusioned by it and like, I'm done with this. Let's look for the next big adventure.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in short, I don't really know where I want to go. Um, I will say I turned down a lot of them more than I would have early on. Just, and I'm not saying I get a lot, but I get a couple, here and there. And now I'm to the point where it's like I understand the trade off of like, all right, my personal brand's at this certain point. I can't, sell out, right? Like I can't like, I don't want to feel like that. I don't like if I was to market like a cybersecurity company, I would know nothing about that. So like that, anything like that, like I just immediately turn down. Like it would have to be marketing to marketers or some sort of martech thing. And even within that, I have to find like the right company because it's just finding what's easier. I'm always looking for, and when I say easy, it's just like easy to market and something I'd have fun with. So I'm at the point now because I built the personal brand and um, my job really at Directive is, half of it is just like personal brand, create more content type of thing.
Yeah.
I need to find like the right sponsorship. I need to find the right uh, software to actually like want to create content about. And I
Yeah.
also just don't feel like I don't yeah, don't get me wrong, if like Salesforce came to me and was like, look, use Salesforce, I'll give you $50,000 a month, like there'd be a different conversation there. It's actually, you can do a lot of stuff there, but yeah, I'm obviously not nowhere near that. But I don't feel like I need those anymore, because it's more of, I do feel or I do know my personal brand is going to help me in the future. I just don't know how yet. Like whether it's a new job, whether it's off of my own thing, whatever that is. And I want to more focus, invest in that rather than just like, small strips that don't make any sense to me.
I think
I also
I
get
think
paid to do some weird stuff.
yeah, I think what's starting to make sense to me is that it might not be as fun of an adventure if you knew where the finish line was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah,
Like
that's true.
it's about the journey, which is awesome because a lot of folks in our field are kind of stuck on that path of, well, you know, I kind of want to get off the roller coaster because I'm about to throw up for the 70th time, but I don't know what else to do. And one of the things that I've found is
Yeah.
people start to go into the world of personal branding. What are some mistakes you see people make when it comes to building an audience?
Ooh. Um, yeah, I would say it does depend on like what you're trying to go for. And I say that because I would say the big one, that I think is like a pitfall is going really broad to follow those kind of like impression numbers, the 70,000 likes and all that stuff. Uh, you see it all the time on LinkedIn. It's a Twitter screenshot of like a freaking Tony Robbins quote or something like that. Like just really, really broad. It's like some very silly, just like you're at that point, you're either selling a course or you just like the high you get from those notifications. So going too broad and not really
Dopamine
understanding what you
deficiencies.
want.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And don't get me wrong, I have that. It's just, I don't,
Same.
70,000 would be too much. There's just no reason for it. But
So is
I would
it
say that's a
that
huge one just because it
yeah.
happens so often.
Is it a
Sorry, go ahead.
is the mistake there that people are trying to replicate a formula that they're being fed by these big time creators that are more or less just the more general empty platitudes and just replicate what I do and you'll be fine, is do
Yeah,
they get
it's
too wrapped up into that?
probably, I'd assume so. Because, maybe they follow like, Justin Welsh or like some of those like really big ones. They want to replicate those numbers. It's just, and then if, maybe they try it, maybe they try something niche that's to their, where they work or what they're trying to sell, and they don't see those numbers, and they actually try, the more broad, and they see those numbers, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna do more of that. It's a big pitfall because it can, and I get it, like the impressions and the huge numbers you get on that one side is, it's fun for, however long it lasts, but it's just, what's it really doing? And then you grow your follower number, and it's just like really, really broad people, or just people that would
Right.
never even make sense to your industry or whatever. Again, whatever you're trying to do, sell, or people you want to get in front of when you do want to move jobs or something like that.
Right. That's one of the main bones that I have to pick with the personal brand movement is
Yeah,
you see it every single day where people are trying to build an audience and know that that is just what they have to do. That is their goal. They're doubling and tripling down. They're paying all the gurus to teach them what to do. And they're building an audience while having no plan or any idea what to do with that audience once they've built it.
Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. You really do.
Yeah, like,
And
are you
but
trying
what
to?
ends up happening.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what ends up happening is this is my actually theory, I guess. All the people that those like the ones that get all those followers are either selling how to grow on LinkedIn. They are probably like here's how to get a job type of thing. Here's the resume type of thing. Like there's that too, and that's obviously huge right now because there was a lot of layoffs. But also then there's like the probably the copywriting or just more general like motivational type of thing. But when you get to those, maybe you didn't start doing that, but once you start to see that people can sell a course for $99 and like 100 people will buy it, then you just shift your whole everything to that. That my theory is that everyone that did that was because they started just off broad and they just shifted to that because that's where easy money was, or they saw the person before them do it. But now there's just so many, like it just doesn't make any sense anymore. But that's just what ends up happening. It's kind of like drop shipping, kind of like all those AI courses.
Yeah.
The only way to make money in drop shipping is sell a drop shipping course. It's just how it is.
Speaking of side hustles, tell me about the early days of flipping on eBay.
Yeah, so that was fun to an extent. So the reason I started doing it was this is probably 2013, 14. I got laid off from a job when I was in college. I was working at some hotel, and they closed a restaurant down there where I was working, and I had to make money to get by. Now I also played sports and obviously went to school, so I didn't have much time to like find a new full-time job or not a part-time job to pay the bills. So I just started. I started with stuff I had at home. I just like because I played sports, I had a bunch of like old Nike clothes. I was just like, all right, I'll just sell these on eBay. And I had just a bunch of stuff from when I was a kid, like Legos and Pokemon cards and things like that. I was like, oh, I'll just sell these or all these, whatever, basically whatever I had. And then I started going to thrift stores, Goodwill, Savers, things that, and this was 2014. So this was before Gary Vee made it very popular. But you could buy like Pokemon and you could buy like Pokemon cards from these stores for like $2, or you can buy, actually one of the big ones early on was I bought some sort of record player for like $20 and I sold it for $500. That really got me like going. I was like, oh, I could really do this. So it was a way to pay for, just the bills during college, but it also got me into marketing in the sense of that's where I learned more about like copywriting, SEO type of stuff, like just how you position something in the listing and how it would actually show up on eBay versus not. And again, I had to do it because just to pay the bills. So I was just trying to make it work. There's also a part of it where I loved going to the thrift stores because I would find all the nostalgia you can think of, Pokemon and all these like Saved by the Bell, like post, like so many cool things. So it was really fun at that point. But it really did teach me about marketing in the sense of just like the copywriting and the SEO type of where to put keywords and things like that. It taught me how to be a business person as well, a little bit, like understanding that, you're going to get taxed for everything, the fees and all that stuff. In the first year, I actually made like $40,000, which was very crazy.
I'm sorry, what?
In college. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I made like $40,000 in the first year. I won't lie, I was spending a lot of time figuring things out. I got lucky with some of them. But it was, I should mention, a good chunk of that was just stuff I had already. So it wasn't like I was completely flipping. So like there was already some built-in type of stuff, but
well, yeah,
it was
it didn't figure you're like, yeah, I sold my Hyundai Elantra and that was a big chunk of, whatever. It's yeah, that's really cool. Is that sort of brain just made for marketing. The ones that are looking at all the different angles and the different hard and soft skills involved. Like it's such a complex ecosystem of skills and roles and brain power. Can you teach a marketer or to be amazing, or are they just born with it? Or it's maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know.
I mean, it's a really good question, because I don't think you need to be. I think you need to have like a curiosity if you're going to be really, really, really good at marketing. I think there has to be a curiosity there, and that obviously you have to choose the path of marketing to go that way for it to be amazing marketer. But you have to be curious at first. I honestly don't know if that is something you're born with, or if it's like an upbringing. Maybe your parents are curious. If I'm thinking about myself, like I don't know. I wouldn't say my parents were very curious in that sense. Maybe it was my friends that were curious, but I'm still friends with like my third grade friends. We talk all the time, and I wouldn't say they're so curious. It's so maybe I honestly don't. I wish that would be an interesting thing to figure out, right? Like, is there like some sort of uh, I don't know, genome or chromosome? I don't know if I'm using the right words there, but chromosome is
No,
something that like you just built with. I would assume some of it is upbringing, but it's just I can't think of where that came from on my side, but maybe it was YouTube. Like I mentioned, like 2000, what was it? 2015. I went on like that a serious. I was doing eBay before that, but I went on a serious, self-help type of thing,
yeah.
and so maybe that kind of helped it a little bit.
I
So maybe.
I'm noticing a lot that it's it's not always just chasing the next adventure. It seems to be rooted in a motivation to just get better. And not in just the like generic self-help way, but you really seem to want to have a deep understanding of whatever has your attention at that time. Your interest has it always been like that? And how long is marketing going to be able to pique your interest?
So you're right. I don't think it, and oddly enough, there was a shift in my personality, or shift in how I, looked at things around that 2015 range. So when I was going down the self-help part, I was living in England by myself. And it was an interesting year. It was really cool. I got scammed out of a couple $1,000s, which I had no money at the time. I was living like I couldn't get my I have narcolepsy, so I couldn't get medication at the time. So I had to do a lot of things on my own. That was like the first time I was like really on my own. Like literally, no one in the country knew who I was, type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that year was a big shift for me in the sense of like figuring a lot of things out, and really going deep into things. Because I really learned how to learn, and like really learned how to kind of do things on my own. And so I think that was, I don't think I was always like that, but, and maybe I was, but not to the extent I was until after that. Just because I probably learned how to learn better, I guess, like just really opened my eyes to like the whole YouTube world, and just how to like do all those type of things, even read
Yeah,
books. Like that was the first year I read a book. And then now, yeah, if I get obsessed with something, I go deep.
yeah,
I go real deep until I figure it out, and then then it like obviously tapers off because I don't have to go as deep anymore because I have figured it out, and then I just try to like get better at it, just like video editing. So like when I started doing that, I went really deep. I had the dual screen with YouTube. Like, how do I use this? How do I do this? Watch people's, and I'll be like, oh, how do they do that? And then kind of like reverse engineer it. So I do have that. So when I do really like something, I'll go really obsessive and deep into it and try to
yeah.
figure it out.
Well,
And that can be good.
Uh, yeah, I kind of gathered as much. Let me ask you this: uh, you mentioned the time where you're alone and just really that's like the first time you're having to figure stuff out. Like I
Yeah.
we all been there at some point, and sometimes it works, sometimes you got to revisit it. Whatever. Everybody does it at their own pace. Um, but you seem to be very comfortable, like diving head deep into something and figuring out something by yourself. So let me ask you this: is it that you really enjoy being an individual contributor, or is that where you're most comfortable?
I would say I'm a very good individual contributor, better than I am managing. But I think you're onto something where I do feel more comfortable like that. Yes, 100%. I like talking. Don't get me wrong. I like talking to people. Like I
Yeah,
like talking to the
obviously,
team.
yeah, it's yeah.
I like talking to the team. Like I like that kind of stuff. But I am more comfortable figuring something out on my own. Now I've obviously evolved too because there was times I was literally trying to figure something out for like 5 hours, but if I just asked someone, I could have figured it out in 2 minutes. So I've learned from that. But to
But
an
then,
extent, yeah, I think I'm
you wouldn't get the
better.
reward and satisfaction and the dopamine of figuring it out on your own.
I guess sometimes,
I'm the same
sometimes
way. Why do we do this to ourselves? Man,
so
I
stupid.
get it. Yeah. So where do we
So
go
funny.
from here? It's you've got this awesome personal brand. Everybody knows the fruit, everybody knows the TikToks, everybody knows your take on sales and marketing alignment and being able to present that in a way that is actually relatable and people can actually understand. Where does that come from? Because for someone to have such a good grasp on what actual cross-functional alignment looks like in practice, that's surprising to me to come from someone that kind of seems like they just like working on their own and might have a proclivity for siloing themselves.
Yeah. So for that, I should maybe I should explain. Like I'm not, I don't like not slack anyone, right? Like I do talk to people.
Oh,
I
of
do have
course. Yeah.
meetings. Like
Yeah.
um, I will say the I do feel like it's just a very important part, and I'll silo myself into an extent, right? Like obviously, I can't sell anything if I don't talk to sales.
Yeah,
But I would
right.
say a lot of my I would say a lot of my kind of experiences do come from because so Directors of marketing agency, and I actually when I started, I was on the agency side,
Yeah.
and so over time, my role has shifted to just marketing for like where I am now. I just marketing for the marketing agency, no clients. It's just marketing for the marketing agency. But I started off on the agency side, and when I started, it was like 20% of my time was on the marketing for the agency. So I was able to actually work with sales very closely in that sense. But on the client side, when you're a vendor and you're talking, your point of contact is usually the marketer or the founder, depending on the company size. It's very hard to talk to sales, and you see the differences that happen when you
Yeah.
can't really have sales in those conversations or talk to sales or like get their feedback or like get even access to a gong call or something like that I
Ugh,
could
geez. Yeah.
internally marketing for the marketing agency. So I was able to see the dynamic like early on, especially when like I would be in one meeting with the client and like you can see a different dynamic there than the meeting next right after that's marketing for the marketing agency where I can actually talk to sales and they're like literally in the same call. So I was able to see both dynamics from that. And then I was obviously, trying to like get on the client side, get sales to like come to these calls, but like just, you're a vendor.
That's
You're just,
that's really
just a
cool.
vendor.
That's really cool because that's such a unique position to be in. Like being able to like stand on top of the fence and just look at two completely different perspectives and go, oh, we need to figure this out, because this is,
Yeah.
completely different. That definitely makes sense as to why you have such a uh, an understanding of what really comes across in your content, which is that cross functional alignment. Like it's pretty rare to see that in my experience in practice. We can all preach it and just say you should be aligned with sales, you should get along, yada yada yada. But like having a deep understanding of like, yeah, there are going to be times where we got to have boundaries. We are going to kind of live on an island for a minute because we got stuff to do. But
Yeah.
we're going to respect that, and we're all trying to go after the same thing, right? It's like when it comes to organizations that are doing that in the most incorrect way possible, like what are some of the biggest things that people are having to get over right now when it comes to actual alignment?
I mean, so if we're gonna go like real like far, like there is some people I've talked to where the sales leader literally just does not think they need marketing, like at all. Like they literally would say like, they would just say we don't need marketing. So like, what are you even doing here? Obviously, they have marketing because whoever the executive wanted it, but so there's that extreme. There is people in teams like that where sales really does not think they need marketing, so they're not even giving them time of the day. Yeah, they might like show up, they might ask them for something, but they just really don't even think marketing should be there at all. So that's a very extreme example, but it does happen actually. The other side of it's like, and I think this is a big fault on the executive team, but it's usually blamed on either marketing or sales. It's just like completely different goals. Marketing sales should have different goals, underlying goals, right? They should, because you can't help sales to an extent, close a deal because you can't be on every call. You're not going to be able to be there and just like help them do something.
Right.
Same with, sales can't be there to help with leads or whatever it is, or whatever their marketing actually is doing. So what happens is like, you're gonna have two different goals, but like marketing, you're gonna get fired if you don't get 500 leads. Sales, you're gonna get fired if you don't hit your revenue goal. Naturally, if you're telling me I'm gonna get fired for not having 500 leads, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get those leads. I can give two shits if sales is gonna close them. That's on them at that point. You're gonna fire me in 3 days if I don't get 100 more leads. I'm gonna do whatever. I don't care what the quality is. Like I'm gonna do it. And that's where I think it's a big misalignment, because then sales looks at those leads like, well, these are terrible. I'm going to miss my goal. And so it just goes back and back and back and forth because they have completely different goals. There's a lot of other ones, right? But I mean, sometimes marketing is just a blame game too. Even if they have the same goal, it's just like,
Sure.
yeah, well, why isn't sales closing leads, or why aren't they following up, or marketing leads are terrible. And honestly, I've seen both sides. Like I've seen marketing do really bad things, seen
Yeah,
sales
it's
just
fair.
not follow up with crazy good. Like again, coming from the client side, I've seen like, all right, this is the perfect person at the best company you can ever think of. Like sales should be salivating, and they just don't even reach out
Like
to them.
timing's
Whatever
correct,
reason.
like everything just
Like everything's there. Like they came for a demo and we just dropped the ball, or we missed it. That could be CRM problem. It could be anything, but who's gonna get blamed for that? Sales for sure. Is they deliver them the best lead ever. So there's just, and then when any of those happen, it's just a snowball effect. It just keeps going.
right. It
Hardly
definitely
stops.
seems like one of those things that if you don't lay down a foundation from day zero, you're in for a world of hurt trying to course
Yeah.
correct something like that. Your thoughts? What do people do? I know that
Uh,
every single person you talk to, depending on which side of the fence they're on, are going to have a million different, very strong opinions. But is there anything that we can do to at least move the needle a little bit in these organizations where it's, yeah, we don't need marketing. Like, you're useless. Why are you here?
I mean, the real answer is it has to, like, because if you think about it, so you just think of like marketing and sales as like basically, I don't know if I really don't know if this is the best analogy, but two kids that are fighting. The only one that can really stop that and really do anything is going to be the executive or the parent. That's the only way it's going to really stop. So marketing and sales are they don't see eye to eye, or they're fighting, or I don't care what it is. The only one that can really do anything is the people above them, which are the executives. And maybe that means tough decisions like letting go of one of those leaders. But if you don't, like, that's going to come up at you later on. Like that example, like sales doesn't think you need marketing. You have a decision there, right? It's like either
Yeah, if that's the
say, all right,
flag
we're
you're
good, you don't need
planting in
marketing.
the ground, yeah.
Yeah. Or like, sales, you're out. We need a new leader that actually gets it. And that obviously, if that leader doesn't think they need marketing, I mean, just think about what else they're doing to the culture, like with the people they're, the SDRs or the AEs under them, like whoever that is. Just think about that, like what they're kind of like poisoning them with.
That's a good
So at that
call
point,
out.
you just gotta let
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And that's like everything, right? That's like some of those simple things, like, oh, you shouldn't be on LinkedIn because it looks like you're looking for a new job. You shouldn't be posting or anything. I mean, if they think like that, think about what else they think about. That you see that kind of example a lot. So it's just like you got to like make a decision. What you got to do.
You know,
It
you
really comes out from
actually,
the execs.
yeah, you bring up an interesting thing that I definitely wanted to talk to you about when it comes to posting on LinkedIn. And I know that, previously in the conversation, we've talked about how you started out on your own, and then there's that symbiotic relationship with where you're at now. Where do those waters get muddy? Where are the boundaries where a marketer or a salesperson or an employee at an org can go, no, this is mine? And
Mm.
alternatively, at what point is an organization justified in actioning on something that they don't like that you're doing on your personal LinkedIn?
It's a
How's
really good
that
question.
conversation go?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, obviously it depends. I mean, let's just think about this here. So one, your LinkedIn page is obviously your LinkedIn profile is obviously your LinkedIn profile, right? So on one side, they can't really force you to post anything. So there's that side of it, right? And I don't think a lot of people get that part, or I know that some do, but I don't think that's as big as a problem. The other thing you mentioned there, right? Like, what can you say to an extent where the company can say, like, you can't say that. You should take that down. I think that depends on your leadership team and the trust you've built also, but also just what they're more comfortable with. And so, like, just an example for my
Yeah.
company, my CEO gets it. We had one conversation about something I posted. We talked for like 3 minutes, and he was like, "All right, yeah, you're right. We're good." But I basically put like our whole. This was like last year or something, or a year and a half ago. But it was basically like our whole strategy of how we did something. I was just talking through it, like legit numbers, like everything. And it was literally how we grew this revenue from this number to this number. Exact playbook, all that. And he was like, I saw, he just called me and was just saying, he was basically asking, like, should we give out everything? Like, it wasn't like confrontational. He was more just asking. And after like 3 minutes, I was like, look, no one's really going to take that and actually do exactly what we did. Like, think about all the things we had to do that are outside of it to make it work. he's like, all right, yeah, you're right. So like outside of like obviously I can't share any client data. Like there's
Sure.
no like there's stuff like that, legal stuff. Like I can't do anything like that. And if I as long as I don't share like and I would never talk about politics. I don't know about it, but as long as I didn't do anything stupid like that, like talk
Right.
very egregious about something, I pretty much have free reign. I mean, I've talked about like legit numbers, revenue numbers from our side of it. We have a good mindset there. I know
Yeah.
some companies aren't okay with that. So you do have to find the balance. So then that's why I said like it kind of depends on your company. Some companies aren't comfortable with you sharing, revenue numbers or your SQL numbers right now, or whatever that metric is, because the competitors are going to see it, or like maybe it could be like investor type of thing. So like I can understand that part of it. So you do have to find that kind of middle ground. Some companies might not like you swearing. You do have to so that was an interesting one because like it is still your personal profile, but you're kind of representing the brand. I don't have a good stance on that, really. I can swear. I don't think anyone cares. My CEO also swears, so there's that. It depends, I guess. There's no really good. It really just
And that's the reason I
depends.
ask is because it's, once you drill down and you start to think about those more nuanced
Yeah,
situations, there are some thinkers in there for sure.
yeah.
It's beyond like, no, I don't want to put the company banner on my personal, like, like, I'm not a tool for this. But when we're getting into my opinion and the way I present it, just with words or in video or text or whatever, wow, what a weird place to try to navigate through. Because I've talked to a few folks where there have been some pretty dire ramifications for doing a couple things, and sometimes you run into folks where they go, they didn't say that's why, but I know that's why.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah. So one thing
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to hit on before we wrap up here is one thing you mentioned earlier about sharing the playbook and like your step by step how you moved this ball up the hill with the company. We talked about them, should we share it, whatnot, and you kind of said, well, they don't know what else we did outside of that to contribute. So like nobody could go and just immediately, like a competitor could not come and just put that into action and just pull the lever, right? There's so many other things that go into that they don't know. Do you think that when it comes to sharing strategies and playbooks and like actual growth numbers like that, the more and more that people are doing that on LinkedIn, what are the side effects? What's the collateral damage of users on LinkedIn that are part of your audience that are marketers taking that back to the hive and going, this is what we're doing, not knowing that it's a lot more intensely involved than they may have originally thought. It might not be in their vertical. It could be completely subjective. It could just be wrong for their organization.
It's a very good question. Because on one side, yeah, I'm a very big fan of just give them everything and they'll come and buy, right? Like you see it time and time again. Like you can literally tell them exact things this exact time, and it's just going to be different because your sales teams are different. Your product's different. Maybe it's the same vertical, but you're literally just selling a different product.
Yeah.
There is always all these nuances. So um I mean, to be honest, it's hard because I do say in a lot of my posts, like, as always, it depends, or like their nuances matter for some of these, like something if I put like out like here's 13 mistakes, or like here's 13 things. What I'm just making up things here now, but like here's some things
Yeah,
you should
sure.
do. But like, and I always say at the bottom, like nuances matter. As always, it depends. It's a tough question because on one hand, I'm like, you should understand that there's nuances. Like everything you read, there is always nuances. Like as a marketer, you should understand that not everything's going to be perfect for your industry. But I do understand the other side of it, where you try something and that you saw on LinkedIn and didn't work for you, and so maybe you have a bad taste in your mouth. I don't have a good answer for it because one, it was free. It's literally on LinkedIn, so it's not like you paid for something and then like a course.
That's
and
fair.
then like it didn't
Yeah.
work. And it's not like no, I don't think anyone wants to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. And I think everyone has good intentions on giving their playbook. I'm just not sure if there's any fault to give, really, because I feel like again, on one hand, you should understand there's nuances. Not everything's going to work for your company, but on the other hand, like, does everyone posting it, like, should they have a disclaimer at the bottom? I just don't know the what that middle ground is.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons that I kind of led with this question is because I'd noticed that generally speaking, when you are talking numbers and stuff like that, you'll mention something in your own voice about not an official disclaimer, but like, yeah, just making that call out. Do we as marketers really need to start paying more attention to the ethics of what we're doing? We have a lot of power. We have to Do we have to figure out whether to use it for good or for ill?
Yeah, and like, I think the things we're talking about is, I don't know if it's as important as like the marketing to 13-year-olds type of thing, where you're really shaping the whole country as future. There's that, the big countries, the big companies doing that, so that's not as important, obviously. And there's things like that. I mean, probably, but like, I'm just not a good person to ask, to be honest. Like, I don't know much about the ethics part. I'm not the most, I'm me personally, track everything. I want that personalized experience. I'm not a big ethics guy in that standpoint, right? Like cookies, yeah, I'll accept them all.
Same.
I don't want any of this, like,
same. Yeah.
future. Yeah.
Don't tell any
like,
of my cybersecurity people that I just said that, but
yeah. I got no problem with all that. Like, track me, do whatever you need to do. So I'm not big, advocate for the other way. Obviously we need to be ethical in a sense, right? You can't be a bad, you can't be copying everything, and you can't be like just lying and cheating. There's all those stuff. I mean, if you do that stuff though, I think we should be especially in the B2B world, it's too small. You're just gonna everyone knows everyone, so you're just gonna get burned. Like, if you get burned, people are gonna ask, "Hey, did you work with this person? Did you hire this person? This marketing person?" You're not gonna last long. So like, you need to be good. Like, you can't be that bad person. Like, you just can't. It's too small.
Well, that's awesome. Tim, man, this has been awesome. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for coming on today. What's your favorite dinosaur? If you were digging for fossils, whenever you have left this insane, exhausting world of B2B marketing behind and you were digging for fossils, what are you looking for?
Well, that's two different questions, because if I was digging for fossils, it'd definitely be a T-Rex, because that's just like, I mean,
yeah,
that'd just be huge.
Yeah.
My favorite dinosaur is probably Triceratops, but like, it would just be so crazy to find like T-Rex. Oh, that'd be so crazy. Like one that has like all, most of the bones still. But probably Triceratops. If I favorite animal, Triceratops, or favorite dinosaur, Triceratops.
That's awesome, man. Well, from one top B2B marketing strategy voice on LinkedIn to another, sir, I salute you. Thank you so much for being here. For everyone listening,
Thanks for having me.
we're going to make
It was awesome.
sure that everything at Tim's is linked below. If you don't somehow know who Tim Davidson is on LinkedIn, you will very soon, and you will be hooked. As long as you like fruit. Is that right?
Yeah, vegetable lovers.
Yeah, get out. Man, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.